Welcome! You're watching Weird Music History. I'm your host, Michael Merchant, aka Danger, and today I'm going to be giving you some fun, weird, and historical facts about music. Today, we are talking about a legend, the grandfather of rock and roll, the king of the Delta blues singers, considerably the most important blues player ever, and the man who met the devil at the crossroads, Robert Johnson. Man, this man is, like I said, an absolute legend. Legit. I mean, the myth surrounding this guy. He met the devil at the crossroads. He's the leader of the 27. He's one of those people that will truly, I think, live on forever, and that's great. I don't think that we would have most of our modern music without Robert Johnson. I mean, he inspired everyone from Muddy Waters to B.B. King to Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix. I mean, you name it. The list goes on. And without Robert Johnson, I don't think we would have a vast majority of our modern music. Now, he inspired all those musicians, but as an early teen, Robert Johnson was also inspired by other blues musicians, specifically a man by the name of Son House. Son House was a notable blues musician. And in an interview, Son House says that I remember Robert Johnson played a good harmonica, but I remember he wanted to play guitar. And so I think he showed him a few things. And then years later, he said that he saw him playing again and said that he must have sold his soul to the devil to be able to play like that. That's crazy. Now imagine your inspiration or your mentor saying that you're one of the greatest people that's ever seen. It doesn't even make sense how good you are. That is inspiring. That's crazy. So, Robert Johnson is his life, while he was a myth, while he was a legend and considered the best blues guitar player, there's reasons why. This man's life was filled with enough tragedy to go around. I mean, he was an early musician, and he was playing, and he meets his wife. I think I read somewhere that he was 19, she was 14 or something like that. They got married. They changed their name. They changed their ages, and they got married, and had a baby together. And they loved each other immensely. They loved each other so much. They had a child, and unfortunately, the child dies during birth, and the mother and the child both die tragically. And because of that, her parents, who were super religious, blamed it on Robert Johnson and the devil's music. Now, this story has a lot to do with religion. You got to think, at the time, people were super religious. And they would have parties like regular people. They'd go to the hole in walls, they'd have a good time, party all night, and wake up and go to church Sunday morning. Well, back then, at these hole in walls, they had great music, dancing and gambling and people were making money. Well, the only person who wasn't getting any of that money was the pastor. So, come Sunday morning, everybody would come in hungover or whoop-de-whoop, and the pastor would be calling it the devil's. Y'all out listening to the devil's music all night, come in here, can't even get right for the Lord. So, I believe that's where the devil's music, that term, comes from. I actually got a poster about that because of that. Super interesting. But Robert Johnson his wife and child dies, and their parents blame it on him and the devil's music. So he, after that tragic event, turns the only thing that he does love, his guitar, and he just pours himself into the music. He starts playing, and this is where the story begins. So, story time. Robert Johnson, late at night, walking along the road, going from town to town, drinking into his sorrows and playing the blues. Going from town to town. One night, at midnight, he comes to a crossroad. He comes to a cross in the road, and he meets the devil himself. And he tells the devil, I want to be able to play this guitar better than anyone ever. So the devil goes, okay, well, in return, I could do this for you. But in return, I'm going to need your soul for all eternity. And so Robert Johnson agrees. The devil takes the guitar from Robert Johnson and tunes it to a perfect pitch just for the devil's liking, returns it to Robert Johnson, and then Robert Johnson is on his way. Again, remember what Son Howe said in that interview. He must have sold his soul to the devil to be able to play like that. And so, a lot of rumors surround. His buzz starts to grow a little bit. People think he really has some shit to do with the devil. And Robert Johnson is now a fiery, flaming guitarist, fucking ripping, shredding. People are thinking that there are three people playing the guitars at once. He's so good. He's playing so good it sounds like multiple people at this point. So, Robert Johnson then goes to record his first project. This project was recorded in November 23rd, 1936 in San Antonio, Texas at the Gunter Hotel. Brunswick Records had converted the room 414 into a temporary recording studio. Pause. All right. The greatest consider one of the greatest musicians to ever walk the face of the earth, recorded his projects, his albums in a makeshift home recording studio in a hotel. So, I'm just saying, there's no excuse. You can do it in a bedroom too. And not only did they record it in a makeshift studio, but out of 2 sessions in 2 days, I think, I'm almost positive, but in 2 days and 2 sessions, he was able to record somewhere up to, I think they said 26 songs. 26 songs in 2 days. So now you really have no excuse. It is crazy that he did it in a makeshift recording studio and recorded 26 songs, and it is considered one of the greatest albums in history. And oh my God, that is just insane, right? Or is it just me? Okay, so Robert Johnson records it, goes on, he keeps on, he's still moving town to town, playing anywhere he can play and get paid for it. And at this point, people say Robert Johnson, the only things he loved were women and whiskey and the blues. So he was doing his thing. He was he was rock star living. Probably the first one to do it. He's, sleeping around, drinking, partying, doing and playing music. That was it. that was the life of Robert Johnson. Well, his reputation had grown a little bit, and people knew that he was, supposedly had, met the devil. He was writing about, his albums were writing things about walking next to the devil, and he had hellhounds on his trail, and he was making hoodoo references in the music, which was African American witchcraft, and like there was a whole bunch of this lore around Robert Johnson, and so he kind of was walking around like nobody could touch him. So he ends up sleeping around with supposedly a bar owner's wife. I think is what they said. There were a couple people mentioned, but the bar owner's wife sounds about right. And he was sleeping and was, making it known, I guess, and pissed somebody off. And somebody gave, after playing a show, I guess somebody gave him a bottle of whiskey with a cracked seal. And supposedly a friend or somebody of his had tried to knock the bottle out of his hand and told him, you never drink a bottle with a seal already cracked. You just did, especially at that time you did. And Robert Johnson took the bottle back and told the man, what did he say? He said, yeah, and you never slap a $7 bottle of whiskey out of my hand again. And so he took that bottle, he drank it, and Robert Johnson died from sleeping, fooling around with someone's wife, and he died August 16th, 1938, at 27 years old, near Greenwood, Mississippi. And they said the documentary I watched that day, it was an unfortunate death. He was throwing up and fucked up for like 3 days because of the poison in his drink. Crazy. Dang. But there's always a silver lining. Kind of not really. That's not good to say. Let's just pause, take a moment. Have some respect for your musical elders. Robert Johnson dies at 27 years old. And because he dies at 27 years old, he is the inspiration and the start of what most people know as the 27 Club. Which the 27 Club holds, legends like Amy Winehouse and Kurt Cobain and there's a bunch of people. But Robert Johnson was the inspiration and the start of the 27 Club. People who got extremely famous and was, extremely talented and died super early at the young age of 27. And it's also, people also think maybe that they sold their soul to the devil, and that's why. But Robert Johnson, while he was, sort of known around, he wasn't extremely popular, and he didn't become extremely popular until after his death, and towards like the 50s, where apparently white college kids were thrifting. God, some things just never fucking change, do they? The white kids were thrifting and would buy these cheap, like 78 vinyls from thrift stores. And Robert Johnson's records would come up through these 78s. And that's how he became, like, extremely famous, like world known, I think. But I think, don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger. I'm just telling a story, man. All right. Robert Johnson passed away, but it was rumored. It was said to be rumored that his guitar was gave to his mother, and his mother had it until she passed away. And I think it was passed down through generations. And this is just rumored that later, years later, it ended up at a pawn shop in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is known for the casinos. So somebody sold Robert then their family or somebody stole Robert Johnson's guitar, and it's out there somewhere. It's out there, but who knows? Last fact about the legend Robert Johnson, grandfather of rock and roll, man. The movie, one of the newest movies that's come out that has become super popular is the movie Sinners. Sinners was inspired a lot by Robert Johnson's story. A lot about that time, that era, the music, and I thought it was really well. They actually had Buddy Guy play at the end of that. I thought that was really cool. Another one of the greatest guitar players ever, probably. One of the greatest blues players ever. But this has been the life and tragic story of Robert Johnson, the grandfather of rock and roll, the king of the Delta blues singers, and the most important blues player ever to live. The man who met the devil at the crossroads, Robert Johnson. Whew, what a story. This has been Weird Music History. I'm Michael Merchant, aka Danger, and thanks for joining. And we're going to do another show very soon, so hang tight.